My family still doesn't know what I do. My mom like still doesn't know what I do for work. I love you, Mom. Isn't like something that is going to affect the way that you look.
Right.
So it's not like you can point to somebody and be like, oh, they have autism. So I think that like really was interesting to learn a little bit more about
parenting, and then with any kind of diagnosis is it's like this until it's like that, and then there's this, so it's this whole road of forks in the road that you're like, what do I even do? How do I tell someone what to do?
I've come to understand too, these kids are like super smart heroes, my thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the things that we're good at, they're great at it. You know what I'm saying? The things that we're good at, they're superb at it. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly how I see it.
Welcome to As Per Usual. I'm one of your hosts, Scoop Moore, along with my co-host, Chef Fano. Please subscribe to the show, hit the like button below. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Sharing our content goes a long way in helping us grow our As Per Usual community. As two first-generation West African young men, we strive to share a relatable voice with our peers as well as create a platform for others to gain perspective on our experiences and opinions. On today's show, we have three special guests with us here to talk about autism awareness. Just so we're clear, I want to make note that our guests today are not experts when it comes to all things related to autism. Still, they have experience working in the field, in schools, working with children who have been diagnosed with autism at an early age. They are here today to share their experiences and shed light on the stigma surrounding autism. Julie Abasha is from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, and she's a special education teacher. Olivia Dumas is from Charlestown, Rhode Island, and she's a sixth grade special education teacher. Alexa Faring is from Clinton, Mass, and she's a high school special education teacher. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to having an insightful conversation with you all, which will spread awareness and hopefully help change the stigma around autism. So first, before we get into things, how's everyone doing today?
Facts.
Great.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. We're happy to have you guys here today. Anything new, anything you guys want to just kind of catch up? How's everything going? How's the last couple of weeks been going, the last week or so? It's a couple of days. How are you guys doing?
I know you just have a little one.
Yeah.
You have two of them.
Got two.
You got two, so I know it'd be busy for you, the life.
We're ready for summer vacation.
Yo, I know, right?
I think we can all say that as the three teachers in the room.
Oh, yeah, so you see the teachers, me, 3 months, right? 3.5, or just 3 solid months that you guys usually have?
Off?
Yeah.
Two?
Yeah, like two.
Two
Work summer? No.
Only if we want to.
Are you guys officially summer break? Is it officially summer break?
So close.
So
I
close,
think
you
it's all
have to get
different
into
days.
June?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on.
Yeah, I know some schools like close and for the summer, like end of May. Now.
Oh my gosh, I wish.
Yeah.
That's nice.
A couple more weeks.
Yeah. What about you though, Mr.?
Me? I've just been doing me. Just kind of just working, continuing to kind of want to build this. You know, we went on a trip not too long ago, a week ago. It feels like it was a while ago now, but we traveled recently, got out of town, and it's just good. It's good to be back and good to be here. A little different. This is the first time we're doing this podcast. I just realized it, not at my apartment,
right,
but at your spot.
We have to switch it up. You know, I still got a few more things to do to it, but I feel like once we can make that transition, and I feel like it worked better for them. They were,
for sure,
coming over
for me.
Here. Yeah, I know, right? Because everybody else was like, a good job. But thanks to Olivia for making that drive.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
So that's cool. So let's get it started. So this episode, I mean, if you guys follow the page and see other episodes, it's about a bunch of other things. But this time we wanted to tackle the subject of autism. And let me see. I have a whole notes ready here because take my time with this one. I want to take my time with this one. So besides being a chef and cooking everything, if you follow, like I said, if you guys follow, I've stated a few times that that I was a behavior and I was working with actual behavior analyst, but I was a teacher working under them, working with kids with autism. So I've always had questions about the field. And my approach to the field was, I don't know if you guys notice I'm pausing right now because I talk fast.
You do talk fast.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm breathing. So when we missed the Autism Awareness Month was a month ago. Right.
Was it May?
April.
Oh. It was April.
That was quick. But so I just wanted to bring a conversation about because I know when people hear about the word autism, and they hear somebody has autism, they just think that they just kind of count them out, you know? And from me working in the field, I realized there's levels to it. And you could be walking side by side in the office with a person that has autism and you wouldn't even know it. So I wanted to bring conversation to light about different angles, like early stages, because everybody here, like Scoop said, nobody here is like an expert where you should think that like they're like digging in there 24/7. But we all have years in this field, and they've studied it a little bit more than I have. And so from my African background, right, when I work with the kids, I've noticed like in my head, I used to always be like, oh, these kids are a little bit brat. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, the kids that were diagnosed with autism, they, to me, once they could understand no, yes, like when they understood little direction, I was like, wait, you're not counted out. Like you're gonna be held accountable for some stuff because you understand more than, you know what I'm saying, I thought whatever autism was supposed to be. So get into it. I enjoy working with them because they actually study the field, you know, the technical stuff, the terms and everything. So we didn't clash in a negative way, but I just approach it in a different way than they did. So a lot of this conversation is going to be about, you know, different things approaching that area. So, did you have anything that you want to start with?
No, I just want to say from my experience, especially since we started to kind of put this episode together, I was trying to think like people are in my life that had autism, and like I couldn't really remember. But then I actually, just a couple of days ago, I did remember there was a kid a grade below me. I remember he had autism, and he was like the sweetest kid that you would ever like meet. And like he was so nice, like the way he would always read, like you wouldn't even think like there was anything wrong with him or anything like that. But that was probably like the closest I want to say that I had like experience with someone knowingly of someone with autism. But I'm happy here. I'm glad here to hear what you guys have to say and just hear your experiences and see, you know, just kind of just spread awareness around autism and kind of help people out that aren't as educated, you know,
right,
about it. So yeah.
So to start off,
yeah, get started on.
To start off, I want to start off by asking you guys. Obviously, you guys didn't jump up and wanted to just study ABA and all that. What did you think about, like, what did you think autism was when you first was getting introduced to it? What did you guys think? Anybody can jump on it.
I mean, I can start. I'm not too proud to admit that I was probably a little bit ill-informed. I had worked prior to when we all worked together at NEC, I worked in a kindergarten ABA summer program. So that was my first experience, but with really little kids who were just wild toddlers to begin with. So then transitioning to NEC with an adult, more young adult, school-aged population, I was probably admittedly in over my head at the beginning. So like I said, I'm not too proud to say I didn't really know anything. So I learned a lot, and you don't learn really anything better than by doing it and seeing such a wide perspective of different individuals and seeing all the different things that they offer and bring to the table. So my perspective was that of, what am I doing here?
No, I agree. It was the same way because, so I live in Worcester and NEC wasn't too far from me, but every time I went, so we keep referring to NEC. NEC is the New England Center for Children, is the most renowned school in the country, one of them, and it's arguably the world's one of the best autism research educational place. And I bring that up because they introduced me to this world, and not every organization has the best, but overall they're great at giving parents some relief from what they never thought there was going to be any results from. So I'm gonna shout out to that. And,
well said. Well said.
Right. So I didn't want to leave that back, but when I hear to talk about the New England Center for Children, we're just shouting them out. But they actually introduced me to a bunch of different kids on different spectrum of autism. And every time I left the Worcester area, like in my community, the kids, like the conversation was never about that. So I felt like I was in a whole different world. Like once the doors closed, it was like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? It was like a whole different world. And I could only relate to these people. So when I come home and I would talk to my mom about it, and I would talk to my brothers about it, they would just be like, you know what I'm saying? To them, it was just like, really like, wow, really? But it was still like, you know what I'm saying? So it's still whatever. So, and I would ask myself like, damn, maybe there needs to be like conversations and things that maybe they'll just think, like understand that it's normal because, you can have a conversation with the autistic kid. They just process things wrong. And I wanted to put in here too, because kids with autism I realized like it's sensory overload, sensory overload. So in saying that, it just a bunch of things happening all at once. Like, I'm sure you guys can describe it more than I can, but it's just, and I've come to understand too, these kids are like super smart heroes in my thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the things that we're good at, they're great at it. You know what I'm saying? The things that we're good at, they're superb at it. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly how I see it. But it's like they're very focused on sometimes in those one area, and there's too much of it all at once, and they can't control it. Sometimes the younger they are, they don't know how to control it. And sometimes when you catch it early, you get to find schools or programs that can probably help them control that stuff. So what about you? What you think about what you think autism was, Julie? Before you got into the...
Like Alexa had no idea about anything. It does. It feels like a separate world, which I think like is kind of unfortunate. And I'm like happy to be having a conversation like this, you know, because I think the more that we can sort of normalize it and bring it to the forefront and be able to potentially, you know, help people have those types of conversations in their own homes. But yeah, I knew nothing. And then I started working with individuals with disabilities in a public school and realized just like how people learn differently. And that's kind of how I see it. Obviously, you know, having an autism or related diagnosis is important too, but just how everybody learns differently. And it's just important to understand, you know, kids at an individual level. And that's like the kind of perspective it gave me. And then that's when I really wanted to just dive into it and learn more about it and go back to school. And I love the idea of just trying to open up a conversation and not have it be this like really scary thing. And like, but yeah, it took like me learning about it.
And it has to. You as a person, I think that's really what it is. Because like you said, this conversation, that's what this pod is about. This episode is about to really make it normal. Like, because some people shy away from it and just give that like side eye, like it's weird. Like, no, it's not weird. Like, yeah,
they do some weird stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They just don't know. And like, that's, you know, even like my own family, like my family still doesn't know what I do. My mom like still doesn't know what I do for work. I love you, Mom. She knows now. But I don't know what it is, you know, it's like hard to get that information out there to people, but.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm sure it's out there, but it's not. You know how there's so many things on the web, on YouTube, Instagrams, and I mean, it takes like people like us to like make those things more common, and even sit here and just start to like just probably give scenarios or examples or perspective of it. What about you, Olivia? What did you think about it before you hopped into the field?
I had a different experience in that I have actually been working with people with disabilities since I was in like high school. There was a day hab. Yeah. I can't remember what the full name is for hab, but like a day program.
Right?
It's not a habituation.
Day hab.
Anyway,
day program. A day program.
Yeah. A day program that had also a program for kids with disabilities in the town to come after school, and I worked with the kids that came there, and then I worked at some camps during college. For kids with disabilities, and then working at NEC was my first job. So I had a lot of other experience, but I didn't know specifically what was autism versus like other disabilities. And I think that it's easy to tell if anybody looks a certain way, but autism isn't like something that is going to affect the way that you look. Right. So it's not like you can point to somebody and be like, oh, they have autism. So I think that like really was interesting to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah. What are some other disorders that could be like mistaken for autism?
So many.
The list goes on.
Yeah. I mean, ADHD is like a common one right now that I think a lot of people are getting like maybe misdiagnosed or like dually diagnosed with both of those. Mm-hmm. Or there's a couple other like iterations of like, there's a lot of parts of autism that can affect people in different ways. So like there's a lot of like sensory processing disorders that isn't exactly autism, but has similar like tendencies. So I mean, those are the only things off the top of my head, but even just learning disabilities. As a teacher right now, there's students that don't have a specific diagnosis, they don't really meet the criteria for autism, but they have some of the characteristics. And so they just have a learning disability, maybe not necessarily named with anything, but it kind of could seem to be autism. So it's hard to parse it apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you were speaking to about it being a huge spectrum. And I think our only anything in the media or anything that was shown was savants. So people who are exceptionally good at whatever it is that they do. Yeah, exactly. One thing. Rain Man was the first thing that I can think of that some Dennis Hoffman was portraying somebody with autism, and he was a card shark. And that's what people thought autism was. So I think maybe I thought that's what autism was until I knew better. And but I still don't know if I know.
Right.
Right, because what you're saying though, partially though, because I feel like some of the kids that we work with, they were good at certain things, but they're also good at more things when you got to add.
I think the assumption is if you have a diagnosis and you're neurodivergent in some way, that there's something wrong with you, or that you won't be able to learn. I keep crapping on my mom, but she would always be surprised when I would tell her about stories of my students learning.
Oh yeah.
I'm they learn, they just learn differently, and they learn maybe faster in some areas and slower in other areas. They're humans. They cry. They get happy. They experience emotion. So I think they can learn. It's just differently, which is a cool thing. I wish we all could teach. I wish all of education could be like that.
Because it's all about understanding. That's the thing though. Like we said, finding out about it. It's all about understanding the kid and trying to see how. Because obviously, normal functioning people, not everybody's fully. I'm saying with normal,
typical.
Right? Typical, right? So functioning people, you can teach them a certain way and be you're supposed to get it this way, that. But we also come to find out, even with that, some people learn differently too. Some people learn visually. Some people I'm saying vocal. Some people can learn. It's different.
Like any other
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know with my students, we'll do a learning styles inventory, and these are with high schoolers in the general education classroom. And then they're Miss, I think I learned better having you tell it to me, or being able to show you by me acting. And it's and that is the world. Everyone is better at presenting and then receiving information in a variety of ways.
Absolutely.
And that is disability completely irrelevant from that.
Right.
So
and they consider us, those people, as normal functioning, but now, what I'm saying, it's just that kids with autism, it's just a little bit more attention to be paid, I guess, So that we got to find out there's using different meds, reinforcers, just different ways you have to follow through with them. And I think another thing too that I want to put in there too, just talking about that, the conversation is when I told you guys about it, about a friend of mine who I told, I didn't tell her, but we had a conversation, and she was telling me about her sister's son that had autism. And this is why I want to talk about it more. So maybe your family member might have it, and maybe you guys might understand more about the patience and the understanding to probably help that single mother or both parents if they're there. But even if there's two parents, there's still more help will be needed. You know what I'm saying? So it goes a long way. But back to what I was saying. So me and the girl, we were talking. She was talking about her sister's son, which is her nephew, and she was just talking about little things, his autistic behaviors and stuff like that. And for me being in the field for so long, I just started to talk about whatever, just sort of catch on. And I literally knew him from just talking to her on the phone. And no one on the phone, actually somewhere after an event, just having a conversation. Yeah. So, and then she was talking about it. And then after we spoke about it, I opened her eyes to a bunch of things about what her sister may be going through. And the next day or 2 days after, she called me. She was like, hey, after talking to you, I realized so many things that I called my sister. And I just thought I was proud of her, just giving her props. And she started to cry. She broke down crying because she didn't think that anybody would understand. So she just closed off on the family and everybody else, just handled things on her own because she didn't think anybody understood. But after talking to me and she broke it down to her, even though her sister would try to tell her, oh, no, then she was like, no, I get it now after after that. So that just opened my eyes more like, dang, maybe we should talk about this. No, maybe there's people next to each other who might be able to help more or be willing to do more, because it takes a village to actually do that, and no need to shun them off. But you got anything to add before I go to the next thing I had on my list?
Nothing to add, but where would you like to go? Where would you like to start off with?
So would you guys, what's the, like, we were talking about from the notes we had, like, not too deep into it, but like, I don't want to say how early can you, like, not trying to diagnose it, but how early have you guys, like, experienced that a kid has really, like, hit autism? Like, at what age do you, like see it?
Yeah, so like the signs to notice in the early intervention, like when?
I mean, my son got a diagnosis at 20 months. He's received a diagnosis. He started early intervention at, are we talking right now or just talking?
No. We're talking. Yeah.
Oh, we're like talking.
Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah.
Get right into it.
Yeah, my son received the formal diagnosis after he was referred at 18 months, diagnosed at 20 months, and had been in early intervention for like 8 or 10 months prior. So pretty early on in his case, his pediatrician was on it in terms of there are marks being missed, and I hate to phrase it as being missed because it makes it sound like, oh, he just didn't do it. And I don't want him to ever view himself as, oh, well, you missed these milestones, therefore, but he wasn't. He was falling behind. And so the pediatrician said, we got to get him to try and close that gap, because the gap is only going to get bigger. And that I'm so grateful that they advocated for him and advocated for me to advocate for him, because it was a baby and he's still a little baby. Like, he can't do that. So
can I ask you?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you noticed in the home? Because obviously, how old is your son?
He's 2 years and like 8 months. So he'll be 3 soon.
So my daughter's gonna be 9 months, and I like constantly watch her, and I'm like,
and
you're flapping.
It's so funny.
I don't know.
Everybody, like,
You're not
my
flapping the
family,
right way.
but that's the thing. Like, my family's like, oh, well, you know the field. You should be able to, you should. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It's your own.
And that's like, he's my baby.
Yeah,
like, and
there's biases there.
And my at that time, my only child. So I had no idea what to expect, because the question is like, oh, gee, I don't know. Did I miss something even earlier? But I think, the doctors they're medical professionals.
Right.
They are doing their job. And if they're saying, hey, we should get a second opinion, that's amazing. But, if I'm sidetracking, I'm sorry.
No, this is.
But the diagnostic process is challenging, and I'm so lucky. My husband and I were talking about this. We're so lucky that our son got in as quickly as he did, because he was referred at 18 months, evaluated and diagnosed 2 months later. The initial list of people we reached out to said it's an 18-month to 2-year wait list. So we would still be waiting now to just get evaluated. And I'm like, wow, what lost time? Because in that year, he's gone to ABA services. He goes to a program. He gets his early intervention still in the home. He would have gotten that regardless. But like, we're so lucky, and we're also not naive enough to recognize that not everybody is that fortunate to be able to get evaluated so quickly, get diagnosed, because we had to pay for the evaluation. Insurance covered some, but we still had to pay. So there's so many barriers to getting an early diagnosis that it's hard, but I'm so happy that he did. And if it sticks, great. If it doesn't, he's going to school in the fall with his IEP and his separate classroom. And I'm so excited that he has these, like, I think my outlook, and that I hope that other people can see, like, I'm excited for him. Like, this opened doors for him, and he has been able to blossom and thrive. And there's nothing wrong with getting access to the supports that you need, your kid needs, your friend needs. Like, it's just a word, and it allows him to get what he needs to succeed.
Right. No, I can imagine. I'm glad you shared that, because that's one of the experience that I want us to really put on here too. I know there's other parents out there, young parents too, that's like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, and they don't know. So when your son at birth, so you like So I was in the medical stuff. So you assign all these different medical practitioner or like
What do you mean?
Like your PCP?
Like his primary care doctor?
Right.
Yeah.
And they were just monitoring things from the jump.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like you fill out that, it's like the well child thing at every visit that they go to. And it's,
they're supposed to hit.
yeah, you put like yes or no.
It's crazy.
And-
But at 18 months, that's when they do the
Yep,
autism.
exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
okay.
That's like,
I didn't even know that.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the, well,
So,
that's
okay.
exactly, people don't know.
You just don't know.
So I think
That's what I was trying to get at.
my
'cause-
biggest push is go to your monthly well child visits,
Right.
monthly, tri-monthly, however often it
Yeah.
is. Like, go to them because these things they
Yeah.
can be caught a little bit sooner and then supported a little bit better.
But not before 18 months.
But not before, and I think
Yeah.
that exactly key. Thank you. 18 months is when they can do that.
Right.
And I think people will say, oh, my 2-month-old, maybe they're showing signs. And I think that's the difference. Signs and a diagnosis are two entirely different animals.
Like you talked about your daughter, like hand flapping. Like she's
She's
hand
happy.
flapping. That's okay.
She's about to lose it. Oh no.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things, like, because with my son, it was the same thing. I was like, oh, he's hand flapping. He's doing a lot of twirling. He's doing a lot of like head rolling. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's just vibing. He's having a great time.
Yeah.
He's having it's all like expected until it's not, and it doesn't.
Yeah, that age when you're like, okay.
And then it doesn't stop, and it's like, okay. And I think that
Right.
is the confusion that I continue to have. Like with my younger son, I'm like, wait.
I know your eyes is on him too,
You're
okay.
rolling your hands. That's what your brother did. Like, I'm just as confused with him. So
Well, he's good.
I think so. He's met more milestones than his brother, and so I think in the eyes of a checklist and the doctor, he is not on the radar of having any diagnosis concerns. Whatever. We'll see.
He's met the milestones when they're
Exactly.
supposed to happen.
Yes, I say all of this
But-
in air quotes because I'm like, I don't know.
Right,
But it's
right.
also a range. It's such a range.
Yeah.
so-
Exactly.
That's-
But your other son that has a diagnosis still progressed.
Exactly,
Like, he's
just-
still achieving
Yep.
so many things
Just
in the milestones.
later. And
Exactly.
yeah, he's
Right,
caught
just
up.
later, and that's the
Yeah.
thing, not being counted out.
Exactly.
Like, I think people
Exactly.
just- yeah, right.
Exactly. Oh, I could not.
You just need a
I
little-
love him so much.
He skipped one totally.
he skipped rolling. He said, I don't need this.
Did he really? I feel like my daughter's
He
gonna
rolled,
skip
I think,
rolling.
3 times in his whole life. So he said,
I feel like
irrelevant.
she's just gonna try to start walking, and I'm like, you need to crawl. You need to crawl. But
Who knows?
People, when you guys hear, have you guys heard that? Or if you hear that when people say autism is a mental health thing, what do you guys have to say about that?
what do you mean?
Some
Autism?
people-
Oh,
that
like
autism is a mental health thing.
okay. Well, are you a radical behaviorist?
No.
I'm saying like-
Take that out.
Definitely not.
I don't think I've heard that
no.
before, honestly.
I mean, I suppose like it's in the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic manual for
Yeah.
mental
Say it like
health. So like I guess
What does that
like,
mean?
if
Like,
that's
it's
the
like-
qualification.
It can
but-
be.
I don't know, because some people just, when they hear people have autism, they just think they're crazy, or
Oh,
no, I'm saying like something
okay.
tweaked with that out of here, like that we're talking about autism.
yeah.
The kids
Okay.
can add, there's actually levels to it where they can actually function and go. You know what I'm saying? When people hear it, they actually scare away and shun for it and look at you crazy
Yeah.
compared to like
Yeah.
a mental health where you're not there. That we know these kids are here,
Right.
but just here in different ways. We're
Well, and I
tackle
think-
it in that way.
As you, Olivia, had alluded to earlier, autism can have comorbid diagnoses of mental health conditions. And I think, depression, especially maybe as kids get older, that
Right.
could be comorbid. And that's not
Very-
out of the realm of possibility, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I can agree with
Yeah.
you. I can agree with you on that.
Yeah. Sorry. No. I lost what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's disappointing. I think it's disappointing that we're like still having conversations or there's still like people in the world who will say things like, oh yeah, it's just a mental health issue, or like
They'll grow
like
out of it.
or
Yeah, that was
vaccines.
actually a question
I don't want to
Oh,
get into
that's-
that
I
stuff.
was-
I was going to
well,
say we're here for
yeah,
like
side
vaccines
note.
cause autism. It's like when there's
Yes.
when there's actual, we're in such like a weird period of time
Yep.
where like information is so readily available to you that like I think people forget that there's like a lot of misinformation as well. But it's if you go to the right resources and you go to the right information, which is the correct information.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of research about what it actually is, and I try to just stick to that because not to sound like a jerk about it. But
Do you have another question, Chef, that you want to follow up with?
No, I was just saying, autism is not a closed world, but it's a small world.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Oh, just not to go too far. You guys heard about Carly's Voice?
Yeah.
That book? Like,
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
have you?
Isn't it like an organization too? Is it just a book? Because I've definitely heard of it.
It's a book about this girl who had autism, and
She wrote it, right?
Yeah, she ended up writing it. I think it's a good reference if you guys want to just like see what the transition is. But I looked into it because when I went back to Miami, there's this lady who owns a school. Both of her kids, she has 3 boys, but 2 of them have a diagnosis of autism. And she has a school, but for like early intervention. So when I went back, I just had to sit down with her and we were just chopping it up. And I was asking her like, "Hey, is there anything you want me to just like throw on here or whatever?" And then she brought up Carly's Voice, and she was like, "You should." And then she was like, "This opened my eyes a lot to what happens in that world," because like she was talking about sometimes like when the kids, like when you see a kid with autism is drooling or whatever, right? And they were asking in the book or whatever, Carly was stating about, they asked her, why is that happening? And she said it could be possible that a kid who doesn't talk, his mouth his muscles get tired of being like whatever, and it starts to drool. Or when you see a kid maybe like banging their head on something, whatever, it's not that they're crazy or losing it, it's that they're trying to process something or the environment is too much. It's not that they're losing it, but they're trying to maintain something within the environment that's going on. So it's not like they shut it off and be like, oh, they just being crazy and on that. So took a little reference to Carly's Voice. I've been watching the podcast I've been listening to the audiobook, just like listening to a whole bunch of it. I'm halfway done, but it's really good, a good reference to really learn about autism and the progression of what people with autism can do. What are you about to say?
So, yeah, we had just mentioned it briefly on, it was a question that we definitely wanted to clarify on. If anyone can outgrow autism, and to add another part to it, if there is a true treatment for autism.
That's a good question. You see, the kids we work with, I don't know, like I work with kids who I don't know about outgrowing it, but they've moved on to adult placement. They've moved on to getting jobs.
Well, you mean
and
like
there's some who
no longer be eligible for a diagnosis?
Like to probably say you don't have autism no more. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd say that, yes.
Basically, that's what
I think the answer is yes. I mean, when I talked to the team who did my son's eval, and I said, could I bring him back in a couple of years? And they said, absolutely, if he doesn't meet criteria. And I think that's the spectrum nature of it. Some kids may no longer have those qualities, and other kids will.
And would it be like, are they like losing the symptoms, or are they, you say, suppressing it?
I think learning to manage more than suppress. That's a good. I think it's like they've learned better, like coping strategies and different ways to just navigate the environment successfully and appropriately. And they're like, we all have things that we're like, gotta bite my tongue on this, and they're learning how to bite their tongue, so to speak. I feel like
more often than not, the diagnosis doesn't go away, but that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
You're learning
the tools.
And that's the goal. I think you're applying tools that you learned and to be able to successfully navigate the world. That's like how we all try to be in any situation.
It's crazy because it's such a normal thing.
That's what I was just saying. Like,
but when we
overclinical,
when we get things so like under a microscope, we're like, oh well, it's like wait, we all do this every single day.
That's so true. I'm just saying back like, damn, that's true. But somebody take a deep breath.
That's literally everybody.
Yeah, literally take your breath before you speak. Collect your thoughts.
We all need coping.
Sometimes somebody still like, grab a quick beer or something like that. I'll be back. I don't know, whatever somebody teaches you to cope and
social
do at that
batteries
moment.
running around.
Yeah, I think we take for granted like how easy it is to learn. You know, like through observational learning, or the things that you learn, that like social skills, that you just learn by picking up from the people around you or not. Those are some of the things that I think individuals with autism can struggle with. But if they're given the right if they're given the right tools, and that's why I like it, like the way that you think about the diagnosis, Alexa, because like your excitement is like you're giving him the things that he needs like as an individual. And then I think an individual with autism could get to the point where with the right tools they're not exhibiting those types of what's the word I'm looking for?
behaviors.
I'm saying like maladaptive.
right?
Yeah.
Clearly, but that's like how we all. That's how we all are.
Yep. Right.
That's so dope. Cause look, I was for real though, just
Yeah.
because just thinking about it, because just that we're relating it to how to how normal functioning people function. But kids with autism, it's the same thing too. It's just on an extreme level.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. You know what I'm saying? But once they do, it's like, all right, we just have to sit back. That's what I did though. Now that's how I approached it. I literally took every kid that I work with and they learn different ways. You know, in every different way, and I think too. And if you don't know, some of the early things that I think with kids with autism when they have is if you are trying to stand on 10 toes and you want to reinforce a behavior, I think you should always be consistent with that behavior. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Like, let's say your kid is doing something and you know it's not appropriate, right? The parenting should continue, not because they have autism that you should think that, oh, I can't, you know what I'm saying, hold them to a standard of saying stop and letting them know that it's wrong. Because I think that sometimes parents that, with the kids that have that diagnosed with autism, they tend to, I don't want to sound like negative, but I don't think it would, but pity the kid compared to like, okay, my kid has autism, but I'm going to stand 10 toes and discipline them in a certain way. Because I feel like with kids with autism, when you lose control, then you lose control, you know? It's good to just stay on that like stream.
But you could also say that's parenting
Exactly.
across the board as well, right?
Yeah.
Like your words matter.
Right.
Kids learn, and they learn when you say something and you don't mean it, and then they learn that they cannot listen to you the next time. I think that's individuals with autism, but also just typically functioning humans as well.
But you can, the only thing with that I think is with typically functioning humans is that you can double back and try to rectify.
Yeah,
I
right.
feel like with kids with autism, once
Yeah.
I'm saying
They learn
it's
by
hard,
consequences.
right? It's hard to come backwards to fix it again in a sense.
Yeah, well, we worked with teenagers, so like we
A
were
lot.
up against
Time.
years of a learning
Right.
history, you know.
And that's
so
what my thinking was going
yeah,
to. Okay,
yeah.
what was not
He did-
happening before? Why
Exactly.
did they allow this to happen?
Right.
Who showed them this way? Why?
Right.
You know, all those.
But I think we take for granted, you know, we were in an environment where we were able to do those things safely
Yeah.
Correct.
for those kids because we had, you know, really well-trained clinicians
Yep.
that we were working with. But, you know, I try to remember, like, this is a student. This kid has parents who, God, I couldn't even imagine what they must have been going through that, you know, they couldn't give their kid, you know, what they needed and had to maybe, you know, go into a residential placement. So, like, I try not to place judgment, you know, on a parent who ended up having to go that route and
Correct.
ended up, you know, maybe their kid learned some bad habits along the way because unfortunately, you know, with those types of diagnoses, there are, you know, kids can be dangerous. They can self-harm,
Correct.
can be destructive. So
Because it varies. The spectrum varies. on
right.
what level.
So that's why like early intervention.
And I think it's
So
just important, like, to recognize, like, not all kids end up in residential, the ones who maybe should, like, and they have to be home and safe, and you have to kind of like, it's like the cost benefit is the risk reward, and you have to think like, I got to keep everybody safe. So sometimes you might make decisions where you're like, ugh, looking from the outside and wow, what a bad choice. But gosh, was it worth the complete avalanche of what was going to happen by maybe upholding that boundary? And yes, I know we want to uphold boundaries, but sometimes it's like, you got to decide, is this cookie worth it?
Right. Yeah.
No,
Pick
like
your
it's
battles.
not. Like if it's not an
Yeah.
inherently unsafe situation, like
Yeah.
I just don't care. Like, and at some point you got to decide what's worth fighting for. And I
Pick your
think
battles.
that's the parents who are,
It's hard.
sometimes you might be like, why do you let them do that? Well, because the alternative
You
is
don't
far
think you wanna-
worse.
yeah, you don't
So
wanna-
this is what we'd much prefer this than that.
It's a constant world of gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
And I think that's what's hard to,
Yes, there's
and
no
parenting,
right or wrong.
and then with any kind of diagnosis is,
Yeah.
it's like this until it's like that, and then there's this, so it's this whole
Yeah.
road of forks in the road that
Yep.
you're like, what do I
Absolutely.
even do? How do I tell someone what to do?
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
As for like a treatment, going back to the question that you asked, there certainly is not one treatment that
Yeah.
is like the answer.
Yep.
I think the only thing I would like urge people to seek out something that's evidence-based, that has like some research behind it. There's a lot of people out there that might think they have an answer, but it's not really based in any sort of like facts or data. And there are things out there that are based in facts and data and have really good outcomes for those who experience it most of the time.
Good.
Obviously, ABA being one of them, and us working in that program, we've seen a lot of success there. But I've also applied other things that I've learned that have been really successful for students I've worked with. And I think if you have the opportunity, so all of us work together in a residential facility with kids that were really impacted by that diagnosis.
Right.
Now we all work in different avenues, and for me, I have opportunities to really speak with my students and like get to know them a little bit better. So I have one right now that is just like has been a real true joy this year, because he's been able to talk to me about what's happening in his head when things are happening, or like
It's amazing.
he asks things at really inappropriate times, and he's like, I just want to know. And so we've talked about, okay, if you really just want to know something, you have to say like, I'm curious, because if you don't, somebody's going to think you're maybe arguing with them, like the social cues part of it. And we have been able to do so much for him together as a team, me and him, the team, because we have been able to have that communication. And if you don't have that kind of communication with the person with autism in your life, then you have to seek out the communication in ways that you can. I think that all of us did that when we were working together with kids that couldn't communicate quite as well. Like we did our absolute best to give that to them and to understand them. And I think that is like the utmost key. So the earlier you get services, the earlier you can get that communication going is going to be better. But even if you don't receive the opportunity to do that, then that is like the first step, I think, for any family or anyone who's working with somebody with autism or a person with autism. If you have autism, then like that's going to help people understand you better. So that's my like.
While you're on it, I just give one. Is there maybe one or two more things that you think, like important things that you think that you would want to share with a person to educate them about the disorder? Like, is there anything? Because you just said one. Can you think about like one or two more that you want to educate somebody who doesn't know, that off the top, like that you would think that hey, it's good to know, or it's good to whatever?
I think that we've already touched on like the biggest parts about it being like a spectrum. Because like I said, we worked with some people at like the really high support needs, and now I work with some students that have really low support needs. So like if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
That's like the classic best saying to summarize.
Just met a person.
Right.
And that's what I was going to say. Like autism is just a word. It is a word. Yes, it opens the door to the clinical side of things, but it's just a word. So like, you've met a person.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like there's like other shows or things on TV, like for example the Netflix show Love on the Spectrum, that like
love on the
that like
Spectrum.
really like opened up the light to autism? That's a show like I didn't really know much about autism. I watched that.
Have you watched
I watched
it?
probably
It's
the first
a
season,
sweet
I want to
show.
say.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love
and,
I love
it
it.
was like people with autism, like they're normal people, and like
I gotta watch it. So
It's amazing.
So what is it they have?
really
You have to have
well
autism
done.
to be on the show.
Yeah.
I think or it's like
related
related
some of them were
diagnosis.
diagnosed, or they're too old to have the they're like in their 60s, so they were diagnosed with something else.
Yes.
Right.
And I
That's
really,
probably one of my favorite
I feel
shows.
with that was like one of the maybe the first shows that like kind of highlighted individuals with autism, like on like the national stage. I don't know if like you guys may know others or
In a
other
realistic
shows
way.
that go-
Absolutely.
So-
Right.
A positive, normalized.
Exactly. Everyone wants to feel supported and included and loved, but I think that's the last, like everyone just wants to feel like they are belonging to a greater group.
Right, and understood in a way.
Yeah.
That's what normalizing these talks is about. Because when you meet somebody and you see them approaching certain things in a way where you may not, instead of just looking at them as weird, is to be like, oh, okay, maybe actually, you know what I'm saying? That be a little bit more understanding. Just kind of like open your mind more to like approaching them. Because sometimes it's just you not having the education to it just makes you just be fucked up, messed up person.
That's on
for,
you.
Yeah, that's kind of
right.
like on you, because then, but also on us too. Because like I was saying again, there's so much out there for people to look at and listen to.
Sure.
Hearing us talk about it, the show that you just said about. I'm sure like there's other people who watch it who understand it more, but there needs to be more people, because I didn't even know about the show. So so maybe the little following we have that's growing, they will get to see this and understand that, hey, if I'm next door to a person or next in line with a person that seems to be autistic or is in that spectrum, I shouldn't just count them out. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? I should approach them like a more understanding, like, so that's the whole part.
And I think it's important, like, to recognize within ourselves that inherently people are kind of afraid and skeptical of things that we don't know, we're unfamiliar with. And I think the first step we can say, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Why am I uncomfortable? Maybe because I'm in a situation interacting with a person that I am not entirely sure, like, how to speak with. But that's the first step to say that I'm having a problem. There's nothing wrong with you.
And they're probably totally fine.
I'm having a hard time figuring out how to navigate this. So it's like flipping the narrative to reflecting on ourselves, like, okay, I need to maybe take that step back and see how I can do better in the future. Because like you say, Anthony, like, oh, if you're standing next to somebody in line with somebody who may have autistic tendencies, you don't know. You're standing next to somebody in line.
Exactly,
maybe they're doing something that you're like, oh, that's not something I would expect.
Right.
But it means absolutely nothing.
Thank you.
They're standing in line. You're standing in line. You guys are standing in line together.
And that's what you should tell your kids when
Yes.
they're
You're
asking
all in the
or
same
staring.
line.
I mean, it's hard for me to say as like not somebody with autism, but like,
What would be your phrase? Like, what would you say to a kid if like you're like, Mommy, what's that kid doing? If he's like, having stereotypy or like,
And that's
what's like your go-to? What's your go-to thing to
That's
say?
a great question.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's supposed to depend on the moment.
Exactly.
Stereotypy.
I would just
Find
be
that.
like,
I would say
Or
Yeah,
stimming.
it's like just
Repetitive motions,
Gotcha.
non-functional.
Yeah.
Non-functional.
repetitive movements, or you might see, individuals with autism like hand flapping or
rocking.
but it's very
Spinning.
similar to biting your nails or
Exactly.
It's all we all
Exactly.
have like behaviors that are kind of like habitual, but ours, we know how to be discreet about them because we've learned over time through like us
Social
being
learning
shamed
and
by each
exactly.
other.
social
By
learning.
being
That's
punished.
social learning.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So,
we were punished.
I don't bite my nails in front of you because you're like, oh my God, that's disgusting, stop. But that is completely lost, which I love about most of the individuals with autism that I've met and worked with, is like they just don't give a shit.
Unapologetically
That is
themselves.
just
They
Yeah.
don't give a damn. They be
They're
like,
gonna flap
They're
their
just like,
hands.
okay.
Yeah, they're gonna flap their hands, and some of it's great, and some
I'm
of it,
weird. You're weird. That's exactly how they look at
So,
you.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's exactly what it is. It's like you evaluate what's happening and you're like, oh, they're just feeling happy. They're showing that they're happy. Like you just normalize
totally
it.
Like,
normalize it.
like I'm thinking the extreme normalizing, like, oh, if they're at their store with their family, it's like, oh, mommy, what are they doing? Shopping with their family.
Yeah,
they're
right.
at the grocery store.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Right.
You're picking your nose, kid.
Exactly.
So, like,
Don't
Yeah.
throw shade.
That is
yeah,
what I'm saying.
same thing.
That's
Yeah.
true. See how you just put that as it's crazy to think about it, like
I try to think about it all the time.
right,
It's
like the little things that we
Yeah.
would do, and they would look at kids, people that either have like Down syndrome looking or saying anything, and when they do something, we're like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll be doing shit too.
Exactly.
we
We do it all the time. We just do it more discreetly because
Yeah.
we've been shamed.
right.
Exactly. And I
Exactly.
think that's like the individuals who do fall within the spectrum of having autism may not be as socially reinforced by to like hinder their behaviors. Like
Right.
that might not be a
If I say,
deterrent for
"Ew,
them, and
that's
that's
gross."
totally fine.
Yeah.
They're probably like, okay,
They don't care. Yeah.
perfect, awesome, good
exactly.
chat. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
I need to find another way to
Which I also love.
Yes.
like
Like, right. The student that I was talking about earlier, we use like a visual chart so that he can see like how he did in each like time of the day. So I feel like we probably have all we've used this with a lot of students before, but it's been so helpful for him because he, exactly like you said, like there is no reinforcement socially for him. Like he's not looking to be the same as everybody else. So he doesn't care if like he does something wrong. So this is a way that we've been visually been able to be like, just so you know, like some of these things are like arguing or inappropriate to do at this time. And the only things we ever target, I feel like I'm speaking for all of us, are the things that are going to then inhibit our students in the future. Like if you're biting your nails and it's not hurting anybody, it's not hurting you, then whatever, do it.
Bite
like
away.
anything that's not like going to stop them from being able to access opportunities is totally fine. But just trying, that's just like the only way to help kids with autism is like to point it out,
to bring
because
it to
they're
light.
not like,
Yeah, be like, hey, just so you know, you gotta pick that wedgie in the bathroom, kid.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's
I
exactly
mean, it's right? It's like,
No, that's a fact.
yeah, that's funny.
oh, what a humbling job.
Truly.
It's the best.
Oh yeah. And I learned so much about myself.
Yeah.
But that's
The world.
exactly. It's like, wait, why do I even care about this? That's
Yes.
what I do. I'm so annoyed and embarrassed right now.
Yes.
But like, okay,
yeah.
my bad.
No, that's just think about it. It makes you realize a lot. But I think that's about it for me. You have any
Yeah, I
questions?
do. I do have another question, or if it's the last question, I'm not sure. But if you guys, for many of your students, you have, do you know of or have any like success stories of someone that started off and like they were, weren't at the best. They needed a lot of nurturing at the time, but at the point, if it was graduation or whatever of them like really making the progress and excelling into the future. Do you know of any success stories like that?
I have a good one that comes immediately to mind, of a kid I had when he was in 6th grade, and he's in 8th grade now.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't go into the gym at all. It's just like sensory overload in there. Like gyms are super echoey.
Yeah.
He didn't like to go to any of his classes, like just like to be in my room, super, super rigid routine.
Mm-hmm.
Now he goes to gym by himself, and he has a group of friends. He goes to
awesome.
classes by himself. He's super independent, and it has been like really, really amazing to watch him grow. He's still him in all the best ways, but he has just been able to be so much more independent. And that is like all you hope for as
That's
a
awesome.
teacher.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Would you say
he's-
that's like in part because like he had such a caring team behind him, be it like his teachers, his classmates hopefully were caring and supportive, like
yeah, definitely.
just to
his
see
mom.
like I can take a risk and people will still be there for me if I mess up or do something wrong, and I'll keep trying again.
Yeah, I think in part that, in part puberty, like just maturing a little bit. So the whole like the school and the home team connection is like the best. So
you said with the wrong team, the wrong approach could have affected him negatively?
totally. I mean, I just like even me, like if I'm working with people I don't like, I'm not gonna be the same as I am with people I like. So yeah, definitely. Alexa?
Well, I think so. The role that I do at the school I work at now is it's a lot of general education inclusion. I do have some small group, but it's for social emotional learners. So I don't have a lot of daily contact with students with autism as a diagnosis. Some in my general education classes, but they've been able to really operate well in the general environment, and that's a testament to whatever they received in the past. But I would say like a great success, obviously my son is so young, but he's already grown, and I think people who have seen him from little baby to now can say like, wow, his confidence, like before, and you got to cut me off because I may never stop talking about this.
Keep going.
He would have like in a room right now, he would have been nervous, but if we were all kids his own age, oh my God, wouldn't speak, he'd be paralyzed with his fear, crying, like trying to get me to, like, and it's heartbreaking. But now, maybe he wouldn't be like high-fiving everybody, but he'd be able to be in the room, and he would wait. We're practicing waving to say hi to people. Like if a kid comes up, we can say hi instead of say no and run away. So that's the growth I've been seeing, and that's just a testament to, I'm not even going to say to us at home, it's in part, but like his providers that he's getting support with has been amazing.
Awesome.
Totally.
Communication.
Exactly. It's all communication. And that's what I can look back and say, he just didn't have it. And now he's developing it. And it's like, it's not the 100%, but like instead of immediate meltdown, he'll say, I need help. And then you have about 10 seconds to help in the correct way.
Yeah.
And then there's a meltdown, but still you get time, and the time is increasing, and that's amazing.
That is.
Oh.
Julie, anything you'd like to add on?
Success stories, I don't know.
All failures.
It's
Just
small successes, yeah, for sure. But I do like to point out too, like human behavior, it's human behavior. So nothing is linear, right? Like you take 3 steps forward and a step back. And then, so it's like just acknowledging that I think is important, especially in motherhood too. Like, my baby starts sleeping through the night and then she, I don't know, won't let me put her down. So like, it's okay to, have success, but then also barriers too. But I have a student who, I love him. I work with high schoolers and 18 to 22-year-olds. And the first time I met him, he will only wear a full on like army, like old like military.
He must be so hot.
Well, he says he runs cold. I call bullshit. Which is, he loves it, but it's unfortunate, right? Like, first off, like, how many of those do you have? So you're thinking, like, are you clean? Yeah. And, like, it's the only thing he would ever wear. And he just sticks out like a sore thumb. And, so, right, like, he already has so many not other things going against him, but he already is socially just not interested in people, and just people look at him and just kind of write him off, like you were saying. But so that we kind of targeted as a barrier, what you were talking about earlier, Liv, of what are barriers to independence or to being able to access, types of environments that are going to allow him to be successful, like a work environment. Like, he'd never get a job like that, right? Mm-hmm. So we are very slowly starting to kind of fade out that outfit, at least for the work, because I'm a vocational teacher. So at least for the work environments that he has to be in. And he's finally, I have some buy-in from him. So, when he comes to work with me, like he takes the hat off and he'll put like a work hat on. And so it's like a real slow.
I was going to ask you what kind of things you guys actually do.
What is it?
I was going to ask you what kind of things that you guys like.
For work so we have, in school and like community volunteer and like work opportunities. Gotcha. Like we work in the cafeteria, we do kitchen prep, stuff like that. But anytime he comes to my class or whatever, he has to, that's his rule now, and he has to take the hat off. And so we're getting there. My next step is the jacket. Yep. When he goes in the community, if he's volunteering, he has to take the jacket off, and that's a really big thing for him. So
what's the reinforcer? Is that
me? No. We've had to actually like expand on our list, because it was at one point it was just watching videos with me on Fridays, and I've had to like fade out that schedule because then I went on maternity leave, and I saw a little bit of steps forward and steps back, and so we've had to kind of.
And not to cut you off, but for the viewers, reinforcers,
Oh yeah. Oh, go ahead. What's a reinforcer?
I'm just saying. I was just saying, like, like she was trying to help her student, but sometimes you need something that will work for, like, something that they're interested in.
And it's not bribery.
Right, it's not really bribery,
exactly.
But if you want to do that, then maybe you're going to do that, or you get this.
There's no coercion.
Right, and you got to be 100 with them, be honest. Yep. Because honesty, because if you tell them that's going to happen, you're going to make sure that happens.
Yep.
And then if they don't do it, you don't get it.
And you don't get it. And that's one of the big things.
Which is hard.
Yes, it's
sometimes.
So because you might be thinking about, how do you get somebody to just change their clothes, and if you can just
really
take it off,
slowly,
but really slowly, like she said,
over a long period of time.
And then like if you keep coming, hey, next time you want to come, you have to come without this, and you're going to get that.
Right.
Then she probably just kept doing that. Then that's probably what they're going to do. Then you're going to get to the pants. If they have to change the pants, then boom, 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 keep adding on.
Hopefully it'll be a work uniform.
Work uniform. Mm-hmm. Then things have to change. Then the kid will have to understand, like, oh, wow, I don't have to always wear this. And if I do that, I get this. So, that's how we change those behaviors slowly.
And we all have reinforcers in our lives. Like,
exactly.
I got a paycheck.
Exactly. I like that. How we relate it right back to
people are like, oh, you're such a saint. I'm like, I wouldn't do it for free.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get paid.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, like a lot of these kids, like, maybe one day they'll get a job, but also maybe not. So it's not out of the, completely insane to think like they need something to look forward to. It's not bribery. It's just what's your incentive?
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's the students, I'm saying, incentive for that. But
cheers to that. Paycheck.
Yep.
Payday was 2 days ago.
Same.
yeah, I think that kind of.
Say any final words from you before wrapping it up? Any final words?
Yeah, it's been great. I hope you guys, the viewers, watch and listen and have questions, because I would love to gather questions from this episode. So maybe down the line, the next episode can be strictly about all the questions that you guys asked. Maybe get like 10 to 15 or more questions that comes up.
Oh my gosh. You're going to get 10 to 15 questions?
I mean, hey, you never know. You never
Okay, so that means we all have to put in 5 questions. That's what I'm hearing.
Hey, if that works out, we can do the next episode on that one. But I firmly believe that we're going to have at least like 10 questions that we can focus on for that episode.
For a future episode down the line. Absolutely.
Because we're going to have shorts with this and then share it out and see how people feel and be ready to answer.
Yeah, we appreciate all 3 of you for joining us today and coming on our show. This was great. You know, spreading some awareness and hopefully educating some people that didn't really know much about autism before. Hopefully after watching this now you might be enlightened and have different, ideas about it. And again, any final words from anybody?
Did we actually ever define what it is?
What is it?
Well, okay, Julie, go for it.
No,
I just linked the criteria.
I just mean you went DSM, what
The DSM-5.
Yeah. Cut this out. No, but I'm saying did we ever?
No.
But I think that
Probably
just
should throw
shows
that in
that,
there.
but it's hard to
Yeah.
I know there's the diagnostic definition, but it's so hard to define. And
Well, just so people know, because
Yeah.
also sorry, this is not on topic, but
Right.
people are self-diagnosing
You're on
on
topic.
TikTok
Exactly.
like
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, so should we just say
maybe.
someone might need
That's
to
a good
Google
idea.
this or
I linked-
pull up
it's on
the
the-
I
linked it.
agenda.
There's 7 criterion.
Oh, I was just gonna say a neurological. Isn't it just a neurological?
Honestly, I
disorder
don't know.
That-
I don't want to
that-
say
This
anything.
is a really hard question.
It's primarily it can affect a range of things.
But there's
Primarily
certain things that it
yeah,
has to.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I can read it.
Is it biological?
It's a
I think
can
there
read
is
it.
a potential
It's
genetic
that can cause it.
a link, but there's no
delays
like
they don't know.
in
exactly.
social
There's no.
skills. Yeah, should
different.
we?
I guess different motor skills. You're gonna say, right?
Any or some of the above.
Right.
Right. So you can have physical developmental delays.
But that doesn't
Social.
mean
No, right.
You should
You
just
have
maybe
autism,
like
right?
you
I'm
just
just
read it
wondering
at
more
the
so,
start before.
yeah.
Less of
cut
the
it
recording,
all
but
out. We lose all credibility. as
No,
men.
that's a
We're
good
good.
point.
We're
Like
good.
Because we've
autism
been
is
yeah,
blah 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 blah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it.
This is not meant to
Good idea.
diagnose you if you find that you exhibit
Yes.
these.
Please see a doctor.
Exactly. Schedule your yearly checkup.
Yeah, give the disclaimer and
Yeah.
disclaimer for sure.
Okay, good
Yeah.
idea,
Yeah, that
Julie.
was good. That was good. I mean, I like the way we touch up on it.
For sure, yeah.
Keeping us all honest and
Yeah, that's very honest. I feel like very honest.
Yeah.
Because it's so broad and wide. Like,
Yeah.
you don't just want to put this is it, and if you see this, then you know that. No,
And
it's
that's not how it is.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to
exactly.
WebMD
Exactly.
this for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we read word for word what it's that, it still won't hit. It's,
No.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, right. You can't picture
Exactly.
what it could look like because it's going to
looks-
present different.
yeah.
Exactly. It's so wide. So we're not wrong. We're not right. They're not wrong. They're not right. I think because it is wide.
But you didn't get it from a vaccine, so
Yeah, there is no determined cause. Cause
we don't know.
Is that the
Yeah, cause.
Yeah.
okay?
That's why.
Dahab? Dahab at you? Dahab at you? I actually don't know either. I was going to
I
put you
think
out.
it's habilitation, right? I
I
really
have
do.
no idea.
That makes sense.
That was funny.
It's not habitat.
They habitat. Okay,
Are we done recording?
we're done.
I was gonna press my little red square.
We're good.
Should we
I was
pause
in
it?
the outro.
Oh yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
outro.
Oh, absolutely.
I like that. This is all natural. I
Yeah,
like
for
it.
sure. It's all-
You see Gilly and them, you be messing up on that.
Of course. No such thing as messing up.
Exactly.
It's natural.
Sweet.
And on that note, just want to remind everyone to please like this episode, share, subscribe on all platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And on behalf of myself and my co-host and our guest today, we appreciate everyone tuning in. And until next time, we're out as per usual.